Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Falling Leaves, written by TMarkos. Your planet's weather is so harsh, Wyan muttered, her 3 bony fingers curling tightly around a paper cup. It steamed with autumn air. Hot chocolate was immediately popular amongst the Lurasai contingent on Earth. It was only a bonus that cinnamon, of all things, was a mild intoxicant to their biology. She took an impatient sip and shuffled it along through the blowing leaves. Nathan chuckled. It's not even proper winter yet, he objected, and this one should be a warm winter, anyway. You have to save your complaints for when it's truly cold. I saw ice in the grass this morning. The trees are all dying. It's depressing. She took another sip. We should have made our embassy somewhere equatorial. Ew. Nathan made a face. Humidity. I'll take some brisk fall air any day. He took a long, slow pull from his own cup. Coffee, which Wyan sincerely hoped to try someday. As soon as the biology team confirmed it wouldn't kill her anyway. The two walked along for a span of time. Wyan kept finding her eyes drawing to the thinning crowns of the trees around them, that she remembered towering over the ambassadorial district in the summer months. She had relished their shade, their lush expansiveness, so unlike the thin-leafed, wispy trees of her homeworld. Now they looked more similar, though. Every day the leaves fell, and the cold sky showed through. They're not dying, Nathan commented. She gave him a look. Then what? He sighed. You're making me drudge up coursework from a long time ago. Trees, deciduous trees, probably, although that's the worthless distinction without an explanation. It is not an effect of the cold weather on the leaves. It is planned response. The colder weather to come would kill the leaves. So instead, the trees move first. They draw nutrients from the leaves into the core of the tree, letting them drop off. It seems extraordinarily wasteful, biologically speaking. Wyan bent to pick up one of the shed leaves, a 3-lobed thing as broad as her hand, with a brilliant red color, only slightly diminished by its browning edges. It's a lot of structure to regrow. Well, as you said, our planet's weather is harsh. Of extremes, it rewards gamblers. He laughed again at the expression on her face. The entire diplomatic contingent had learned to be careful with their reactions. Humans were surprisingly adept at reading the body language of other species. Wyan found it nice, most of the time anyway. The trees wouldn't make leaves this big anyway, he said. They'd make leaves like our evergreens, our pines and hollies and whatnot, like the trees in your planet, more or less. But it's a difference in philosophy. Another sip, and his expression turned into something more contemplative. Lyros doesn't have much seasonal variation, does it? Wyan whistled in a short negative. Not seasonal. The temperature varies more with the weather patterns that bring down air from the polar regions. We'll get a few days of cold, a few days of warm. Our axial tilt is, not as audacious as yours. Yes, we're quite proud, Nathan deadpanned. It's a difficult thing for an organism to contemplate a long span of winter. There is little food, and the conditions are hostile. Trees are often overwhelmed by snow. If they fail to shed their leaves in time, and can crack in two, they could all respond like the conifers, of course, and constrain themselves. Then leaves, then trees to bear up under the conditions. And that works. But it's not the only option. Another sip. Some trees choose to wait, to rely on the impermanence of winter and marshal their energies for when spring comes again. It looks dire sometimes, but the results are mostly successful and beautiful. Wyan chirped. Beautiful, she muttered. Somehow I can't see it. It was beautiful last month when it was full and green. Now I look at it and see bare branches and it makes me oddly sad. Her hot chocolate was cooling and she grimaced at it. Your planet has an annoying habit of being allegorical. It makes me think of dying of things and mortality more often than I would prefer. Nathan nodded. Us too, he admitted, his feet crunching against the leaves. There's an old story of ours, written about a king whose history is more legend than fact. One day, he asked a minister of his for a ring, a very special ring. When a happy man looked at it, he would become sad. When a sad man looked at it, he'd become happy. Fanciful, Wyan noted. It was meant to be an impossible task. The minister searched for most of a year and couldn't find it. He grew desperate. The richest and most powerful merchants laughed at him out of their stalls, and even those who were willing to speak with him had no idea where to find such a thing. In his despair, He wandered the poorest quarters of the city, finally finding a merchant set up in a threadbare and broken stall. He asked the old man if he had heard of such a ring, to make a happy man sad and a sad man happy. The merchant smiled and told him to wait. When he returned a short time later, he handed the minister a simple ring with the inscription engraved upon it, "This too shall pass." Nathan finished his coffee, letting the cup drop to his side. Wyam did the same with her drink, scowling. "It worked," she said. "I was having a good day, and you have infected me with melancholy." She got a smile in return from her human counterpart. A lot of old stories are like that. They take truths that are uncomfortable and universal and make us face them. He nodded to the trees, just like they remind us. Their entire strategy is predicted in two truths. Summer ends, but then so does winter. "Why are you like this?" Wyatt grumbled. "We have extra psychological support staff for all Earthside deployments specifically because your entire history, psych, and ecology is designed to make civilized sentients confront the horrors of existence." Nathan shrugged. He held out his hand for Wyatt's cup, then tossed them both in a nearby trash can. "Who knows? We ask a lot of the same questions. We struggle with a lot of the same answers." He bent to pick up a leaf on his own, turning the fiery thing around between his fingers. "I content myself with the fact that it is pretty while it lasts." Wyatt let her leaf drop. "And cold, hence hot chocolate," Nathan reminded her, "and puffy coats." She glowered at him. "We are not nearly so exothermic." Her words cut off in surprised chirp as Nathan looped an arm around her, pulling her close. "This is not what I meant." "But you are warmer now," Nathan raised his eyebrow. "No?" I am," Wyatt admitted. She could feel the heat even through their clothing, like some unseen sun was beating against her side. It wasn't unpleasant. They began to walk down the row of autumn trees once again. The sun was out. It wasn't truly that cold. She had read the figures, though. She knew how abysmal the winters got during the shortest day. It made her shudder to think of it. "Still cold?" Nathan asked. Wyatt whistled out another denial. "It's not that bad out," she said. "Colder tomorrow, and we have that tax meeting all the way across town." "We'll have to bundle up for the walk," Nathan grinned at her. Wyatt felt like she should object. There were implications to what he was doing, and she wasn't blind to them. Yet here he was, the sun at her side, and she found that its dull heat wasn't without its light. It caught in the leaves and in the sky, and made them into something warmer, bound up with the promise of sunnier days and new green growth on some future morning. And if she had to wait to see it, well, she looked at his face, still sporting that irritating grin. "I suppose we will," she said, leaning into him. The leaves crunched underfoot, red and gold and beautiful. Story number 2, The Tribulations of First Contact, written by WegianWarrior. The quite honorable Bloban of the Pacaldcon wrapped her tentacles around her eye stalks in frustration and disbelief. There were a great many of both tentacles and eye stalks, although not quite enough to express her level of frustration. "As the sitting chair, being of this honorable council, I cannot," she said, "cannot believe that we are still discussing this issue." She shook herself, straightened up to a more dignified, statesman-like pose. "Yes, I know the forms and procedures have to be followed to the very letter. First contact with a new species has to be a unanimous decision. I am certain that rule made some sense when the Federation consisted of 3 species. But now we number an octal and a half." She rose with the dais and started undulating as she went on with the tirade. "There have been more than an octal squared meetings devoted to this discussion. We've established committees to evaluate this particular species' obvious technological prowess against their capricious warlike aggression." She paused in the middle of the large room, eyes swiveling to take in all the representatives present. Committees which, I might add, promptly generated several subcommittees tasked with reconciling the odd dualism of their peaceful and warlike religions, as well as other pressing matters of concern. She threw her tentacles up in the air in resignation as she made her way back to her dais. Settling in, she looked around at her fellow representatives. "The best minds of the Federation have given their expert testimonies and recommendations to this most honorable council repeatedly." She shifted her focus onto a single representative, voice dropping and sounding tired. And even so, the reasonable, honorable representative of PIC now wants us to go back and reevaluate what our basic criteria for establishing first contact should be. The reasonable, honorable representative of PIC uncoiled himself, ready to deliver a sharp but polite rebuke, as Brobland thrust her tentacles towards the wide-open doorway leading to the deliberation chamber. "Honorable representatives," she said, exasperated, "have you even considered what species is making up the bulk of the Federation guards these days?" The short biped guarding the door looked startled as the whole council suddenly stared at him. His dermal layer turned pink as he gave a small, uncertain wave to them with his forelimb, 5 digits spread slightly. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.